you, that'll help. Thank you. TED, it's about ideas worth spreading. And I thought to myself, what have I got that I can spread? Actually, that sounded a bit better in my head. But I was thinking about when we get those emails into our inbox, and some of them we pass on to friends and family. Often I tend to pass on ones that are either very, very funny, but I'm not a comedian, so I'm not going to try and make you laugh too much. Or we tend to pass on those ones that are very, they astound us with technological science. And I'm afraid I'm not a rocket scientist either, so I'm not going to try and do that. But the other types that I tend to send on to my friends and my family tend to be the encouraging ones, the ones that inspire you or the ones that motivate you. Often I think of a friend and I think, yes, I know they want to do this in their life or career, so I'll send them this email. And I think it's funny because sometimes we're better at encouraging and supporting our friends and our family than we are ourselves. And I think often that is because we have what I call self-limiting beliefs. Now, you might wonder if you have any of those, and I would argue that you probably do. If you've ever said to yourself, I can't do that because, then that's a self-limiting belief. And you might say, yes, but what if it's reality? What if it's a fact? Well, beliefs and facts are two very different things. And a very classic example of this that's often used in self-development and psychology, but I think it's worth just raising again here, is the idea if you go back to early 1954, if you were interested in running and I said to you, I'd like you to run a mile in less than 4 minutes, you would have said to me, no, I can't do that. It can't be done. It's not humanly possible. And I say, how do you know? Because no one's ever done it before. So therefore it's a fact. It's not doable. But actually, in May of 1954, a man called Roger Bannister actually shattered that belief by running the first sub-4-minute mile. And what was really interesting about that was what happened next after he had shattered that belief. Because in the following year, 37 other runners also ran a mile in less than 4 minutes, previously thought to be impossible. And in the year after that, 300 more were running the mile in less than 4 minutes. So what that example illustrates is that often it's our beliefs about things that limit us rather than actual facts and realities about our lives. So the idea I wanted to share with you today is that if you can change what you believe, then you can change what you can achieve. Now I realize this is easier said than done, because how do you change what you believe when it's just, well, what you believe, right? So I wanted today to just share a little bit of my personal story. Now, as a psychologist, I don't really like talking about my own life or my own issues. Psychologists don't mind listening to yours, but we don't really like sharing ours. And I just really go back to when I was still a teenager, a fresher at university, and I found myself pregnant. You might ask, how did that happen? But that's a whole other talk, okay? And I felt pretty devastated at the time, if I'm honest, because I had dreams for my life, and suddenly I realized that everyone's expectations of me changed. I became a statistic, a teenage mom, as they call them, and as we often watch on reality TV. And actually, a year later, it happened again. I was pregnant again, and this time single, and really, I was in a complete mess. Yeah, I was never particularly attracted to university for the academic life. I was attracted by the alcohol and the partying and all of that. And yeah, here I was, and a lot of people said, well, she's going to come to nothing now. And for a while, I really did believe that. And yes, I fell into a crippling depression. I got into serious amounts of debt. At one point, I think I had about £25,000 on credit cards, and I was paying one minimum payment with the other card at the same time. So I've been there at the depths of despair. But I was fairly tenacious as well. I was really intent on finishing my degree because I saw my education as probably my only opportunity. And at one point, I would take my newborn son, sneak him into the back of the lecture hall and breastfeed him on the back row to try and keep him quiet. I think he was the only person in the room who struggled to sleep during those lectures. But I managed to keep going, but I kept facing these expectations of people time and time again that held me back, until eventually I was just depressed. I moved back to Hull, where I still had some family, where I'd grown up, and I moved into this little terraced house in really a rundown part of the city. It was a pretty grotty little house. In fact, within about 2 days, we had to rip up all the carpets and get them in a skip, because I noticed that myself and the two little babies were getting bites all down our legs, and they were completely flea infested. It was the stuff of nightmares. But there was something a bit different about this little terraced house. It was a very humble little residence. Above the door was a little plaque, and it said, "Pioneer aviator Amy Johnson was born in this house." And I remember looking at that plaque and thinking, when I was growing up, Amy Johnson was always used, as a really inspiring character. And I remember thinking, yeah, Amy Johnson made an incredible journey against all the odds and against all the expectations that people had of her during the day when she would have been expected to be a wife and a mother and everything else. And I thought to myself, if Amy Johnson can make that incredible journey, then so can I. What do I have to do? What's the first step that I have to take if I'm going to make something of my life from this pretty dire situation where I was just claiming benefits and dependent on the state and really feeling pretty low about myself? So I started to study, I started to research, and this was when I suppose my passion for personal development really took off. Yes, I had a background in psychology, but I really started to study what did other people do that took them from a point of not believing in themselves and their abilities to a point where they would go on to do big things with their life. And so what I wanted to share with you today are the 7 steps that I believe it is necessary to take if you want to make any changes in your life. Maybe it's your career, maybe it's your personal life. And from all the research that I did, these are the 7 steps that seem to be most important. So where do we begin? Well, we begin at the end, funnily enough. We begin with a happy ending. It's more than just goal setting. It's more than just saying, here's my bucket list and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. It's about having a dream for your life and a real clear idea of where you want to end up. Now, you wouldn't just get in a car and drive and meander around the streets without having a destination in mind. And yet most people approach their lives like that. And I was reading very recently, actually, an article in The Guardian about a woman called Bonnie Ware, who is a palliative care nurse from Australia, who has spent the last few years of her career recording what people say when they get towards the end of their life, the regrets that they express. And the top regrets that she says she hears are, "I wish that I had let myself be happier. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I hadn't worked so hard." We can probably all identify with some of those regrets. But by far, the top regret that she says people give is that I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. And that made me think how I'd managed to make this transition from being yet another statistic to actually doing something with my life and my career that I feel proud of and that brings me great joy and great pleasure. And I thought to myself about what you might be thinking, coming to a TED conference, looking for inspiration, looking for ideas. And if you knew you were coming to the end of your life, what regrets might you have? Because those will give you some clues as to what you really want your happy ending to be. The next step that's really important is to allow yourself chance to explore. It's almost contradictory to the first step. So hold in mind what you want your happy ending to be, yes, but at the same time, explore all the options and avenues that are available to you. It's about saying yes more. It's about trying things and not being afraid to go down a route and turn around and come back again, perhaps, and explore a different route. But the other thing with exploring is that often you have much more opportunities and options at your disposal than you're perhaps aware of. In today's connected world, it's estimated that where we used to think there was this 6 degrees of separation, the idea that there were 6 steps it would take between you and any other person on the planet. And now with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with all of the social media available to us, it's estimated that's reduced down to 4. Okay? So now we live in a connected world. You have more options and more opportunities at your disposal. Step 3. Before I go on to step 3, I want to say that I am aware that sometimes, we face real hardships and real difficulties in our lives. And you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, well, that's all very well for you to say, but, I grew up and I left school really early. I didn't get any qualifications. I'm dyslexic. That could limit your career. Absolutely, I can see that. Perhaps you have a serious life-limiting illness or a disability. Yes, I can see how that could limit you in your life goals. Maybe you grew up with a really terrible childhood. You may even have suffered child abuse. But yeah, I can see how that might limit you. Or perhaps you have a particular career goal in mind, you're aiming high, but you just feel you don't fit the typical profile. Fair enough, that might hold you back somewhat. Some of you in the audience might be thinking, I'm just too young to make a difference or to do very much in my life. And some of you, like me, might be thinking, life has thrown me a curveball. I ended up in a situation where maybe I'm a single parent or I'm claiming welfare and I don't know how I'm going to get on in my life. So yes, I'm being facetious here. There are real limitations, but you need to look beyond those limitations. You need to find just one person who's overcome the kind of limits that you face, and that will prove to you that it can be done. So step 3, I called look, listen, and learn. Look around you for a role model. Look for someone who can inspire you, who has done what it is that you hope to do. But also, listen to what they say about their story. Listen to how they got to where they are today. Read biographies. Watch TED videos online. Look for inspiration, because there's always a way that someone has found that you can try for yourself. But crucially, it's important to keep learning. Asking those questions, being a detective for your life story. Asking who, what, where, when, why will give you some clues and some ideas as to what you can do if you want to make a change in your life or in your career. So that brings me to step 4. Step 4, I think, is a very important step. They're all important, but I think this is very important. You're going to have to invest. You're going to have to actually invest some time or some energy, maybe some hard work, possibly even some money, or maybe just your reputation by making a declaration, by getting out there and doing something. The number of people who I meet who have dreams, who have goals, yes, they've looked at what Richard Branson did or what Oprah Winfrey did, and they think they're going to do it, but then they never get off the starting post. They never send that email or write that new CV or go out and spread their message, whatever it is. So the really important thing with step 4 is that you must make an investment in your goal if you're actually going to begin to believe that it's a possibility for your life. Moving on to step 5, it's all about your environment. You need to have the right tools for whatever goal it is that you have in mind. If you want to write a book, you have to have a space in which you can work. You have to have the basic equipment. You have to have the right tools around you. But it's more than that. It's also about the social environment, the people in your life who are there to support you on your way towards your goal. Psychologists know that the role that other people play in your life is absolutely crucial. It can affect your health, your well-being, your happiness, and your goals. So make sure that you are spending time with people who are going to encourage and support you and provide you with the things that you need. Step 6, visualize. They say that seeing is believing. If you want to start believing in yourself, if you want to start believing that your goal is possible, you need to see it happening in your mind's eye. Now, sports psychologists use this all the time. We get our elite sports people to envisage that winning goal or, take that amazing shot. And we know about the benefits of mental rehearsal. But it's more than that. It's also going to keep you going. It's going to motivate you, dreaming yourself into this new part of your life. Now, contrary to popular belief, visualizing on itself is not going to make it all happen. You still have to invest. You still have to learn. But it is going to give you that crucial bit of motivation when you're feeling like giving up. And that brings me on to the final step, which I think really is the most important step of all. If you want to change what you believe is possible for yourself, and you want to change your life in any way at all, you have to expect success. Social psychologists talk about this all the time in terms of placebo effects and, using optimism to work for you. We know now, clinicians know, that what you expect if you're given a diagnosis of something, what you expect to be the outcome of your illness has a dramatic effect on whether you recover or not. We know that if you expect success in a goal, you are going to keep going on that path towards success. And you will not give up. You will persevere when it gets tough. You will find a new way round when you meet an obstacle in the road. So it is absolutely crucial that you expect to reach that successful destination if you're going to make any changes at all to your life or your career. So just to summarize, if you want to do something different with your life, you're going to have to begin with your happy ending. You're going to have to explore all your options, all your opportunities. Don't close your mind off to things. Look, listen, and learn from those around you or from the other examples that you can come up with. Invest. It's important you've got to do it. Equip your environment. Make sure you've got the right tools for the job. Visualize, see it and believe it, and expect success. And if you can do that, then I sincerely believe that whatever it is you want to achieve, you can start to believe in the possibilities for your own life story.